How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder. To recap the series between the Yankees and the Red Sox from over the weekend, we talked about it going into this series ad nauseum, how important this series was for the Reds, or for both teams really, but from the Yankees' perspective, obviously, because it's a team we cover a lot on this show here, and how the Yankees really needed to get up and perform well in this series and to get the fan base to buy back in to this season. And did the Yankees do that? No, they did not. They end up losing 3 out of 4. They did salvage the final game of the series, so I guess there was a silver lining in this series if you believe in that and if you want to say that. They took the final game of the series. They won last night 7-2, but the Yankees did not get up for this series. The Yankees embarrassed themselves in this series, especially in the game on Saturday. You end up losing 12-1, and the Red Sox put up a 7 spot in the ninth inning. It was just an ugly, ugly series, and the Yankees once again forget how to play baseball. Thursday night, they commit 4 errors, 3 in the same inning. And does that remind you of something? And especially with Joe Davis on the call, does that remind you of anything? Joe Davis on the call and the Yankees commit 3 errors in one inning. You remember? Does that ring a bell? So that happened. They end up getting shut out on Friday night. They lose 1-0. Did not watch a single second of that game because I was doing a fantasy draft, my first draft of the season. I got another one tonight and then one next week as we get closer to football. Looking forward to the football season. And then they get embarrassed 12-1. Game was never really close. And if you look at the game on Thursday night, Yankees lost 6-3. It could have been a lot worse. Red Sox went 3 for 19 with runners in scoring position. I believe they left 14 guys on base. The Yankees were like 2 for 7. They left 10 guys on base. But that game was going back and forth. The 3 errors that happened in the one inning, you had a ball going off the glove of Luis Gil, another throwing error by Anthony Volpe, and Ben Rice trying to throw somebody out at second base. He ends up throwing the ball into the outfield, which allowed the run to score. And that ended up being huge because the Red Sox took a 1-run lead into the ninth inning. Now, Roman Anthony hit a home run that still hasn't landed yet, which tacked on to the lead. But, that was a crucial point in the game. But the Yankees just could not score with runners in scoring position. On Thursday, Ben Rice led off an inning late in the game with a triple. Yankees couldn't drive him in. Jazz Chisholm ended up striking out in a big spot. And, the Red Sox got another out after that. Ryan McMahon came up with the bases loaded 3-2 count with 2 outs. He ends up striking out on ball 4. Yankees had an opportunity to score more runs. They just could not do it. And the Red Sox did just enough to win that game. They took advantage of the Yankees' miscues. And Luis Gil, walks were a problem for him. Walks were a problem for the Yankees in general on Thursday. They were a problem yesterday as Carlos Rodon walked 5 more guys. But I think they ended up walking 9 guys on Thursday. So on top of not taking advantage of runners in scoring position, mishandling plays in the field, and walking guys, that led to the Yankees losing the first game of the series. And then they just couldn't get anything going against Brian Bello. Nothing. And he has pitched very well against the Yankees this year, and that continued again on Friday night. I guess one good thing you could take away from that game is that Max Fried pitched very well, which is something he hasn't done in a while, but he put together a very good start. So hopefully he can continue that momentum. But the Yankees lineup just could not do anything. Nothing. And it was Connor Wong later in the game. Mark Leiter Jr. on the mound, the number 9 hitter. He hits an RBI double. I think it was in the 7th inning. And Red Sox locked it down. And Thursday night, isn't it funny how the pitchers the Red Sox put in late all were affiliated with the Yankees at one point? Garrett Whitlock, Justin Wilson, Greg Weissert, who the Yankees traded to get Alex Verdugo, and then, of course, Aroldis Chapman. Every time Aroldis Chapman comes in against the Yankees, he locks it down. Not the Chapman that he was towards the end of his Yankee tenure, where he just would be skipping balls, be throwing balls over the head of the catchers, hitting guys, walking guys in general, and giving up hits. No, Aroldis Chapman has had a very good year. He's not the Yankee Chapman that the Yankees were used to. He's dominant Chapman. He's put together a very good season. And then Saturday, Will Warren just really did not give you the outing that you were hoping for. Now, he pitched in the game, the only game up until last night that the Yankees won against the Red Sox this year that I was at. Got into trouble in the first inning, but pitched well. He got into some trouble late, but he pitched well in that first Red Sox game for the most part. But here, not the case. Not the case. Did not give the Yankees what they were hoping for. The Yankees put Paul Blackburn in mop-up time, and he was responsible for those 7 runs. Another throwing error by the Yankees in that inning. And they just, they gave up 7 runs. Narvaez hit another homer. I think I might have said Volpe had a throwing error in the first game. I think it was Jazz. That was my mistake. Or he had a throwing error in one of these games here, but Volpe did have another throwing error, obviously. So yeah, both of them had throwing errors, but Volpe had the throwing error in the 9th inning of the 3rd game. That's what kind of sparked the Red Sox to just release the hounds on the Yankees in that inning. I mean, Giancarlo Stanton was responsible for their only run on Saturday. He hits the home run to right center that was a wall scraper, and I think it was 4-1 at that point. But it didn't really matter. With Garrett Crochet on the mound, he pitches very well against the Yankees. The Yankees just could not get anything going once again, offensively. And then last night, Carlos Rodon pitches well. Yankees got into a bit of trouble in the 6th inning. Luke Weaver surrendered a 2-run single to Nathaniel Lowe. And he's been playing really well for the Red Sox since the Nationals DFA'd him and the Red Sox picked him up. He's been a hitting machine. And the Red Sox kind of needed somebody to replace Tristan Casas over at first base. And he's done the job. But the Yankees, the long ball was out in full effect. Jazz Chisholm hit a couple of homers. Trent Grisham hit a couple of homers. I think he has 25 homers on the season now. Very good year. Jazz was emotional. He hit his 100th career home run last night. We learned later after the game that he recently lost his best friend. That's why he was very emotional in the dugout. So, thoughts and prayers out to Jazz going through a tough time. Because on social media, people didn't know what was going on because he was visibly emotional in the dugout after his first homer, and that's what we learned later on. But Jose Caballero had a sac fly in the game. Jazz had the second home run of the game, the 2-run homer that made it 7-2 later on. We saw Devin Williams pitch a clean inning. Luke Weaver, I feel like he gets put into some tough jams lately, and it's always with the bases loaded they put him in. And it even goes back to the World Series too. He gets put in with the bases loaded. And then they had Camilo Duvall come in to get the final 3 outs. He pitched himself into a jam, but he was able to get out of it. He has just continued to not perform well since the Yankees got him. The Yankees did have Bednar warming up in the bullpen just in case. Thankfully, they didn't have to go to him. Yankees are going to be getting Fernando Cruz back. I think he's going to be activated tomorrow. So, big arm the Yankees are going to be getting back in the bullpen, and they'll just probably DFA Paul Blackburn. But they needed somebody to eat innings because the bullpen, once again, is just exhausted. They've been overused. But, yeah, so there was definitely some things I missed, but I pretty much covered every single game. You kind of figured. That's why I just wasn't getting overly optimistic, cautiously optimistic, that, hey, could the Yankees against the Red Sox, who they have not done well against this year, could they get up for this series, play well, and really reinsert themselves into the conversation of, hey, they could be a threat in the American League? But they did not do that. They didn't do that. Now, it's exciting when you see them doing well and hitting all these home runs against inferior teams, but you got to be realistic with yourself. This team is not good enough to compete with the rest of the American League. And the American League's wide open. There's not a juggernaut in the American League. So if the Yankees do get hot and they play well against these good teams, yeah, they could beat anybody. But it just doesn't look like that's going to happen. Now, they do have one more opportunity. They have one more opportunity in the middle of September. They play 4 teams that are ahead of them right now. They play the Red Sox again in Fenway. They play the Blue Jays at home. They play the Astros in Houston. And they play Detroit at home, which I'll be at that series. I think I'm going to the first game. That's the opportunity for them to show, hey, we can hang with these teams. Once again. But I really just don't think that's the case. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they'll do just enough where they'll clinch a playoff spot. And you also have a lot of inferior teams around that stretch because they got the Nationals and the White Sox coming up. They got the Orioles a couple times, who are playing better since their rough start. So you don't want to take those two series lightly. And then you got the Twins in there, and then I think you have the White Sox again. So yeah, like the Yankees are going to make the playoffs. They should, but I just don't view them as a threat. I don't. As many people don't either. And most Yankee fans, I think, knew going into this Red Sox series that it wasn't going to go well. Now, they had an opportunity to win Thursday. They had the lead. But Camilo Duvall came in, gave the lead right back. They made costly mistakes in the field, kicked the ball around, and they just could not hit with runners in scoring position. McMahon striking out with the bases loaded was a big moment in the game. Could have been his Yankee moment. Or at least could have taken a walk. If he would have just took that final pitch, that's another run. Ben Rice leads off the bottom of the seventh inning with a triple, or with one out, and they can't get him in. They can't get him in. Because I think it was Goldschmidt, and yeah, it was Goldschmidt and Jazz. Goldschmidt kills lefties. You were hoping Goldschmidt was going to deliver in that spot, and he didn't. And they just went quietly against Chapman. And then I don't know how you can't score one run. You can't scratch across one run. You lose 1-0 late in the game. You could have won that game too. Saturday was really the game. It was just a mismatch. You can't hit Garrett Crochet. He's pitched very well against the Yankees all year. Last night, Dustin May was on the mound. He hasn't been great. Yankees got to him. But that's what they do against bad pitching. Now, Carlos Rodon did a good job for the most part. Red Sox really couldn't get anything going. Couldn't scratch across any runs. So he did his job there to hold down their offense. But to me, it just really doesn't matter. You know, if you could have won at least one other game, feel a little bit better about things. But I would have liked to have seen the Yankees take the series, and they couldn't. Aaron Judge has been struggling since he's come off the IL. And, you know, we're having serious conversations about this MVP race. And it looks like with Cal Raleigh hitting 50 home runs as a catcher, it could be him that ends up winning MVP. But we'll see. Maybe Judge has a great September. But Judge is probably still playing hurt. He's starting to throw the bases, so he's going to return to the outfield at some point, and I really hope it's sooner rather than later because I want Stanton to be DHing again. And once again, Anthony Volpe was topic of conversation. Did not play the beginning part of this game yesterday, but was put in later to be a defensive replacement at short, and they put Caballero out in right field for Stanton. He is out of the lineup again tonight, but he's going to be in there tomorrow. And Aaron Boone just said earlier that he is going to be the shortstop regularly. So if Yankee fans had any hopes of Volpe just being benched and Caballero taking the job away from him completely, it's not happening. Volpe's going to be playing pretty much every day. But I think if Jose Caballero goes out there tonight against the Nationals and he, you know, goes 3 for 4, a couple RBIs, I think you keep putting him in there. He's been doing well for you. Volpe's just been non-existent with the bat. And, again, is committing errors. So, I don't think you should be putting Volpe out there regularly. But that's what they're going to do. They're standing behind their shortstop. But I just don't think that's the right approach. I do think that you have to continue to make this, a regular thing where Volpe's not guaranteed to be out in the lineup every single day. So, yeah, Volpe had, once again, rough series. He struck out on 3 pitches the other night, and he's getting booed from the crowd. He's hearing it. It hasn't been a good stretch for him. And Ryan McMahon turned some very good Yankees were turning some good double plays last night. McMahon plays a very good third base, but he's got to give you more with the bat. Has to. I mean, he's been striking out a lot, and that's what we heard before he came over from the Rockies, that he strikes out a lot, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that out of McMahon, but he does play a very good third base. So at least the defense is kind of making up for the the hitting. So, yeah, it's just the Yankees got a lot of problems. And, this season to me, it's just, it's going to be a quick exit for them in the playoffs. It is. Because as much as we love to see them hit all these home runs, and yeah, they lead the league in OPS and home runs and all that, or they're tops in home runs, they're up there. Ultimately, they are going to meet good pitching in a short series, and they're going to be done. They're going to be out pretty quickly. And Aaron Judge is not 100%. That also hurts him, and I just don't think the heroics of Giancarlo Stanton is going to be enough this time, everybody. It's not going to be enough, even though he's been continues to just mash. It's just it's not enough. More guys got to step up, and I just don't see that happening. I just think the Yankees ultimately they're going to get to the playoffs, and it's going to be a pretty quick exit. So, yeah, they could go on this run against the Nationals and the White Sox. They win all these games, and you think, all right, here we go. They're getting hot again. But when they meet this tough stretch, and then when they get to the postseason, you're just going to be reminded that they just don't have it this year. And the one thing that you constantly hear, the word that gets thrown around is soft. And I can't disagree with that. This team does not get up against these superior opponents. They don't. They just roll over, and they forget how to play baseball. They constantly make mistakes. And you can't be doing that. It happened in the ninth inning against with Yerry De Los Santos on the mound. Right? Goldschmidt, just all you got to do is flip it to De Los Santos. It slips out of his hand, and then Roman Anthony hits the home run, the 2-run homer. That was the fourth error of the game for the Yankees. You just can't be doing that against these teams. Now, I don't think the Red Sox are, this juggernaut, but they're better than the Yankees. They do things better than the Yankees. And Alex Cora was talking about how they love playing at Yankee Stadium. Teams, again, this just goes back to what I say when many people say people do not fear the Yankees anymore. Teams do not fear the Yankees like they used to. And that goes back to what I was saying. The team is soft. They're bullies. They beat up on bad pitching. And then when they go up against these better teams, they can't do it. And I held out for as long as I could, everybody, because I didn't want to say it. But the Yankees are fraudulent. They're fraudulent. You look at their records against these better teams. They recently lost 2 out of 3 to the Astros. The record against the Blue Jays and the Red Sox combined is not good. They have a total of, I think it's now, 5 wins now? They're frauds. And when they go up against these teams in the postseason, it's not going to go well. So, until they prove to me otherwise, I'm going to be under that assumption that they're frauds. And some things you can't really control, like Judge is not playing 100%. And, Max Fried kind of fell off but pitched great the other night. The bullpen has dealt with a ton of injuries and guys underperforming. I get it, but, they're close to 100% now. And it's just, the results are not changing. So, but if they go up against these 4 teams later in September and they play well, then maybe we revisit this. But right now, I'm under the assumption the Yankees are fraudulent. I just don't think, against Seattle's pitching, I don't think they would do well in a short series. With the Red Sox and Crochet and Bello going up against them, Yankees don't fare well against them. And then you got Detroit, the Blue Jays, and the Astros, who you always have problems with. It's tough. It really is tough to say that things are going to change when they just haven't showed it. And with the Red Sox, because I was listening to sports talk radio, that the Yankees could beat the Red Sox. Yeah, they could, but the Red Sox have owned the Yankees in the playoffs since 2004. They haven't beaten them once. They lost to them in 2018. They lost to them in 2021. Now, in the regular season, you could say there were years the Yankees owned the Red Sox, yes, but in the most important games in the playoffs, the Yankees, they falter. Now, a series and a wild card game is a small sample size, but that's what the track record has been recently. Yankees don't do well against the Red Sox in the playoffs. So, yeah, even after winning last night, I'm not optimistic. I'm realistic. The team's not good enough. Team's not good enough. And it's not an easy fix. It's not an easy fix. Like, what do the Yankees do in the offseason? Like, I think, yes, you bring back Bellinger. Maybe you try to bring back Grisham. But I don't know. I don't know what else you could do. I don't think McMahon is the answer at third base, the long-term answer, although the Yankees have control of him. Volpe doesn't seem like he's going to turn it around. Dominguez, I think you give him more of a runway because he's still very young and still has room to grow. Like, this is his first full year playing. And it's the same thing with Austin Wells, too. With Volpe, this is his third full year in the majors. And he's not doing well. But the other two, you could at least say, well, it was their first full year playing. I mean, Wells did play most of last year, but that was also with Trevino playing a lot as well. Like, Wells got a ton of runway. And then Ben Rice has taken over because Ben Rice is more of a threat at the plate. And you know what? For the most part, he hasn't done a bad job. But of course, I said that, and he, made bad plays once again in the field in this Red Sox series. So yeah, it was not a pretty sight, everybody. It's more of the same. Doesn't seem like it's going to change. Yankees begin a series with the Nationals tonight. Cam Schlittler on the mound. Looking forward to another one of his starts. What is he going to do after putting on a great performance against the Rays the other day? Look, just beat the teams you're supposed to beat. That's what you got to do. And then, we'll see what happens when we get to that stretch of those 4 teams later in September. But it was not a good weekend for the Yankees. A forgettable weekend. And they should be ashamed of themselves. Really. I mean, going into last night's game, you're 1-8 against the Red Sox this year. Like, I remember, the teams in the mid-2010s weren't that great. And, the Red Sox embarrassed them at times. But it wasn't this bad. And the Yankees, in 2009, they started off the year 1-8 against the Red Sox. But you know what? They turned it around. They swept them in August. 4 games. Yankees had an opportunity to do that here. They didn't do that. So, again, team just doesn't have it. Team just doesn't have it. And I think it would have been like the first time in 100 years almost that the Red Sox would have swept the Yankees in the Bronx. So thankfully that didn't happen. They stopped it. But I just... You could kind of get a feeling on what a team is made of and if a team has it or not. This team just doesn't have it. Like, if they would have really turned it around, they would have turned it around already. Like, how many more chances are we going to give them to turn it around? Just don't think it's going to happen. They do have one more opportunity, but I just don't see it happening. I don't. And they have huge problems that stem not just in the dugout, but up in the front office. They need to change their way of thinking. And I just don't think that's going to happen either. So, let me know what you guys think, though, about this series, because it was an embarrassment. There's no other way to put it. As always, everybody, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video and to the channel, and to follow us on the social media accounts down below. And wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us as well. You look up Infinite Sports Official. We're going to try to have Ben on this week because we got football coming up, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Final thoughts on the preseason, division predictions, Super Bowl predictions, all that's coming up. We're going to try to have a NFL picks show every week as well. Pick the games. I'm going to try to do that. So a lot of content with football coming up within the coming week. So it's an exciting time. So as always, everybody, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off. Have a good one, and I will talk to you guys next time. Take care.